society. It is usually revealed with the concept of civic and social engagement. So the main concern is with the co-creation of knowledge with and for society, and primarily the relevance of developing usually there is this concept of academic engagement, which translates the notion of knowledge society within higher education institutions and within the behavior of academics. New expectations for academics should do within their institutions. Academic, the first or earlier approaches on academic engagement focus on knowledge transfer activities intending to apply the research output to products, processes, and knowledge development, or stressing the entrepreneurial roles of academics within the innovation system. We are talking about commercially driven activities that may include patenting, licensing, technology transfer, and the creation of new companies, startups, and so on. More recent conceptions like this one from Bergman and his colleagues try to broaden the concept of academic engagement, including the knowledge-related collaboration by academic research with non-academic organizations. So the emphasis was on starting to be on scientific knowledge and the way it can be transferred to society at the local, regional, or even global level. So the linkage established between the academic community and other external organizations may be formal and be formalized by the contract, but it can also take place through informal interactions with external partners in which personal contacts enable knowledge and technology transfer. So within this perspective of academic engagement, there are some empirical studies that have been developed also within this project that we participate, the Apiks project, that conclude that there are differences in academic engagement with society based on gender and in seniority. So women tend to be considered as less prone to embrace entrepreneurial activities with commercially driven purposes, while men tend to collaborate more with industrial activities. So, to say, men are more associated with the commercial or economic perspective of knowledge society, while women are more related with this civic and social perspective. For seniority, it is also commonly pointed out as a driver of engagement, despite the motivation and willingness to collaborate that younger academics demonstrate, especially due to these influences of the new discourses on higher education institutions. So, taking this general framework, our aim is with this paper,
¿De cuál? De la transmisión o de Zoom. Son 4 de Zoom. A las 2:11. Hace un minuto. Mi micrófono está muteado, necesito hablar. Mi micrófono dice, y acá me dice, el anfitrión desea que usted reactive su audio. Marlene Rivera Luna me está diciendo eso. ¿Quién es? No puede hablar. No, no está escuchando lo que dice ella. Pero los demás sí me escuchan. ¿Tú escuchas? No puedo decirle, pero ella está escuchando lo que está diciendo ella. Pero, o sea, a mí me escucha. Entonces,
response rate is approximately 20%. And then on phase 3, and considering this particular paper, only the representatives, the respondents to certain questions of the questionnaire were selected, so our end is 1,945 academics. So, as Teresa said, we decided to divide basically academic engagement into two dimensions. One more
Quizá como silenciamos la aquí, no se va a
the
escuchar la de allá.
commercialization of knowledge,
A ver, luego
which
intentamos que silencione.
such as
Intentar aquí.
exacto.
A ver si lo escucha.
Use of infrastructures and equipment, work in research laboratories, science incubators, science parks, and prototypes. And we've also decided to broaden that concept. And so what we call the social and civic engagement, which goes beyond the commercialization and includes activities such as evaluation of policies and developments of companies, governments, regions, countries, consultancy activities, volunteer-based work, public lectures and speeches, writing presentations for a broad
Le voy a
range
decir si
of
ahora nos
readers,
escuchan
and
nosotros. No
participation
está
in
escuchando
external
gente.
awards or committees and things like that. So what we've done is we considered four variables to answer to those questions that Teresa just showed you. The first one was the academic engagement practices. And basically we've measured these through a question we have in the survey, which asked academics about their external activities, so the external activities they have had in the previous 3 years, okay? And if those were more socially and civically engagement, or more commercially, or were more related to the commercialization of knowledge. Relating the other three variables. So the first one was the academics' primary research, the perceived impact of external activities on society, so the activities they conducted on society, and the other one was the perceived institutional expectations to engage. So those three last variables, we've measured them through a Likert scale from 1 to 5. To measure the academics' perceptions. I think we have used it. So just to clarify what we mean by senior academics and early career academics. So for the senior academics, we group all the full professors, associate professors, assistant professors with tenure. Okay, so we took into account the Portuguese context, in which a tenure position requires every more than a 5-year contract with the institution. Okay? So many of the Portuguese assistant professors remain in this position for many years until they get tenure. But all the others, we included them in the early career academics. So we've done this division. As for the findings, just talking about a bit about our sample. So there was a kind of, as I said, that we had 1,945 respondents, of more or less of men, of women, okay? But there was a bias towards early career academics. So 71% of the respondents were early career and 29% senior academics. Now, talking more specifically about the results, so the first variable, okay, the engagement in external activities and in the commercialization of knowledge, results show that male academics are more engaged than female academics, especially among early career professionals, independently of the type of external activities considered. And within this, we found out that in the early career group, 27% of male respondents reported being involved in the commercialization of knowledge, against 16% of female academics. And in the senior group, the gap is even larger. Okay, so it's 29 against 15. No significant gender differences were found in the case of early career academics, but only in the case of senior academics, but only in the case of early career academics. So, as you might see here, the percentages I talked about. Regarding the other variables, so gender differences regarding the research orientation. In general, Portuguese academics do not tend to consider the research developed as commercially oriented, either women or men. So both groups, they think their research is more socially driven than commercially driven, which is interesting. However, the male population in the early career stages is more prone to identify this characteristic in the research outputs. So even though from 1 to 5, in a scale from 1 to 5, the mean value is still negative, it's 2.31.
Le puede escribir si ahora mismo está escuchando lo que dice la señorita. Por favor.
Researchers consider their research as more socially oriented or intended for the betterment of society than their counterparts, especially among the senior group. So, with a mean value of 397. So, you can see here. So, in the early career, we have 231 against women, we have 207, and in senior, 397 against men, we have 345. So, you can see those differences, and they are statistically significant. Regarding the third variable, the perceived impact of external activities, there is a lower commercial orientation reported by female academics, especially among the early career professionals. Women perceive a lower contribution of external activities developed in the industry, with a mean value of 2.7. Among the senior academics, there are the gender differences on the impact of external activities are even more prominent. Female academics believe more that their engagement activities contribute to the development of the local and regional community, with an impact of 393, and society at the national level, so 392. And no gender differences were found regarding the contribution to society at the international level. So it's not at the national level. So those are the structures, the numbers I showed. Finally, the last variable, so the perceived institutional expectations. No significant gender differences were found among the senior group. And women in early career stages tend to experience a higher pressure to engage, especially regarding the commercial-oriented knowledge transfer activities. And they feel more pressure in almost everything regarding the raising external funds, to conduct more commercial-oriented research, to compile the guidelines for research set by research funders, and to carry the research beyond the typical size publications. This is an interesting result because even though women feel more pressure to do commercial-oriented activities, they do less than men. So it's quite interesting. So those are the figures I just talked about. So to conclude, we've seen that Portuguese academics tend to relate more with a social and civic perspective of engagement, both men and women, which is aligned with their perceptions of their research orientation. So they think that their research is more oriented towards that. There are, however, relevant gender and seniority differences between women and men, especially in those at the early career stage, with the latter, so the men, developing more commercially oriented engagement activities and considering their research commercially oriented, intended for technology transfer. Female academics, and especially those in senior management positions, tend to consider their activities as having higher impact on local or regional activity and at the national level. And women, especially those at an early career stage, tend to feel more pressure from their institutions to be commercially oriented. So, there seems to be a
Se cambió la
mismatch
sala de Zoom,
between
nos dieron una cuenta
students'
distinta,
behavior
entonces nos cambiaron toda la
and
configuración.
perceptions on academic
O sea, antes
engagement
teníamos una
and
cuenta
this
y ahora nos dieron
institutional
una
culture,
nueva.
which represents
No sé, a mí me mandaron aquí nomás a mover, a vigilar, pero como nos cambiaron la cuenta, se cambió la configuración. Porque está exactamente igual que antes. Mismos conectores, mismo audio, todo igual.
And they face more difficulties to comply or be aligned with these institutional culture towards the commercialization of knowledge. So maybe institutions need to value more social and civic engagements with the broader concept of academic knowledge to be more aligned with their academic professional identity because there is that mismatch I mentioned. And to value more social and civic engagement can also be relevant to avoid the dropout of students in their early years and also to prevent gender inequality by the valuing of more male behavior and perceptions on academic engagement. Just to finish, we would like, as our first contact and our first experience with the Chilean culture, would like to leave you with this poem from Daniela Sepulta, a researcher from the University of Chile, which for us is a good example of this social and civic engagement, especially concerning gender equality. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Teresa, for that presentation. The poem at the end is wonderful. But now we are moving from the north to the south. We'll start with Chile. I hope the people who are following us through, I know we had some issues. We're trying to work on that so you can hear us better. A bit of patience, please. Roxana, thank you.
Buenos días, good morning, everyone. What a pleasure to be with all of you. First, I will invite you to stretch a little bit, find your comfortable posture, because we are going to talk about elites, unconscious bias, and those criteria that we use, that we create to select colleagues that will potentially join our academic departments. And this conversation requires not just our cognitive attention, but also what happens inside. And I say this, and I'm going further to my findings, because there is an important black box in the process of faculty habit that has a lot to do with our subjective understanding, feelings that I'm going to talk about. So I have been studying processes of faculty habit for a long time, especially in economics. I wrote a book here and I often find that it's not working, so I will invite you for those that feel like perhaps to share with me out loud what are those criteria that you think of when you are that you're considering when you select an academic grade, especially for those that have had that opportunity to participate in faculty hiring processes. Formal and informal, okay, can you say a little bit more, Teresa? Number of publications, number of situations.
characteristic of the person. Anything about particular on the characteristic of the person. Okay, social value and it's fun to work with. Right? Are those criteria that we use, right? And we have in the back of our mind, but we don't say it. And I'm concerned about how academia contributes to reproduce inequality. And I do know that processes of hiring are crucial in the academic career. All of you have been talking what happened during the process of academic career. I'm concerned about what happened in the entrance. So this is a common phrase, and we know it for all of us that study social sciences. In a process of democratization of higher education, elites tend to differentiate. They are looking for those attributes that allow them to keep their position of power. And I have been studying the process of hiring in economics departments for the last 5 years, maybe a little bit more even. And Chile, the world has changed. And two important factors to consider: social crisis, like the feminist movement that happened in 2018, and our social outreach, estallido social.
What am I am putting all of these elements in context because in front of the question, how academic departments that occupy an elite position in economics go about their hiring processes considering these forces. I have two, first, for the sake of time, I'm going to go very quickly, but just to highlight three important factors. Faculty hiring processes are multi-stage. It's not just one decision. There is several instances that academic departments have to go through. And in each of the instances, there are different relevance for the criteria that we're using, that the departments are considering. And the decision and the priorities of what we are looking for depends of all of those factors. The institution, the public policies that today we know in Chile, accreditation is a huge factor. How academic departments need to guarantee the research productivity, for instance, to accredit their doctoral program is a very important criteria that academic departments are considering at this stage, as well as institutional culture, the specific needs of the academic department, how many professors are going to retire the next year, and the political environment. As Teresa was telling us, we are not just looking for researchers, we are looking for colleagues that we can have fun with, that we can work and talk. And I would also like to mention that in this stage of the world, with the environmental crisis, with social movements like Black Lives Matter, feminist movement, there is an increasing or an emerging agenda, I would say, that is asking for greater equality or diversity in the academic workforce. This agenda is very, very relevant in the United States and in many ways arrived to Chile because of the influence and the reference model that we have with that country. And in the case of economics, it's a very highly internationalized market. Academic departments in economics, they hire in, for instance, in the American Economic Association, something that they call the job academic market. One of the things that, or the reasons why I selected economics as a field of study is because of the epistemic authority that this discipline has within the larger family of social science. I also want to go quickly here because I want to get the juicy part of this presentation, which is the findings. So 3 things to say. Economics in Chile economists have been crucial in the process of political exercises. How can I say that in English? It's like the influence that economists have had in the process of policy creation and advising the government has been very important, something that scholars call technopoles. It's a field highly dominated by male everywhere in the world. And at the same time, it's a field where the individuals from upper middle class are overrepresented. Here, a graphic that shows the percentage of people who have received doctoral fellowship to study in economics as compared with other fields. Economics is the orange point, and you can see that with the exception of 2 years, um, the percentage of fellows who studied in private high school, which is a proxy for upper social class in Chile, is greater than the rest of social science disciplines. Okay, so here are my two questions. How have economics department at elite universities have changed their hiring processes in the last 5 years? And to what extent, and this is part of my agenda, crucial point, to what extent have these departments allowed the entrance of people who come from working class? Something that I didn't mention in this presentation, but it's very important to say, is that this question become relevant because Chile adopted a policy around 15 years ago of increasing the percentage of doctoral fellowship, which had allowed a greater percentage of people from working class to attend doctoral education, especially in foreign countries. A short picture, and just to highlight 2 points. Here are, in Chile, economics is not an undergraduate major. You studied business and administration at the level of engineering, and then you conduct a specialization. So it's a field that is only is a degree that not all of the universities provide. So there are 48 universities that offer business administration engineer, but only 12 of them have the specialization of economics. And these are the academic departments that have this specialization. Two important parts: 17% of the women hired in tenure track positions, 17% of the faculty hired in these academic departments are women. I don't know, Sergio, maybe you know how is the comparison between industrial engineering, but I would say that it's very close. And 5 academic departments concentrate the greatest research production considering the Scopus publications of all of those academics. Colleagues, to develop this graphic, it took me around 6 months because that meant to generate a directory of all of academics hired in these 12 academic units and go through their CVs and reconstruct that trajectory. There is no way in Chile that you can identify who are hired in those specific departments. It's an information that the ministry has, but it's not desegregated in that level, and there are several constraints to get that information, and I can share more about it. We had an episode last year concerning some requests of that information from very conservative deputies that put in risk I would say the labor stability of some women academics who were teaching feminist classes in public universities. I don't know if you remember that episode. So I requested for that data and I couldn't have it. So that was my work to build this data set. Methodologically, I have been working with qualitative studies approach, and here I'm going to show you comparative case of 2 academic departments and how they were hiring in 2017 and how they are hiring in 2022. Okay, so my preliminary findings. First things, let's pay attention to this table. Overall, the 2 academic departments have increased the size of their faculty in 20%. So there have been in a process of expansion. You may say, well, that is not the 20% percentage of having more academics in their faculty bodies, not that much. They are showing some increase, but it's not a field that is exploding, right, as can be other fields. The percentage of women increased dramatically in one of those, when I say dramatically, 7%. Okay, but if you look, and according to the interviews, they said that level of progress, passing from 2 academics to 4, was a huge milestone for them, because in the previous year there were academic departments that have 100% of men, and Okay, I'm not gonna go back, but um, there were some academic departments in the prior table that had 100% of men faculty. There is an interesting change in the strategy of hiring in Economics 1. In 2017, they had 100% of people with PhD degrees. In 2022, they decreased the number of faculty with PhD. And that happened because first, they started hiring at the level of the undergrad. Let me put it in different words. They realized that it was so difficult to recruit academics when they were competing in the labor market, so they started a program um, at earlier stages of the career to hire their alumni that went to study abroad to conduct their PhD. And and also, this academic department decided to hire some senior academics that didn't have a PhD, but have an important role in the industry. It's impressive to notice the change in the discourse of these academics regarding gender. So in 2017, I was asked, do you have any bias in this process? There is any concern to hire women? No, we hire exclusively according to merit criteria, gender. We would favor women only in the last stage of that hiring processes. That discourse today is not as such. There is a sensitivity that having a department with very few women is not allowed, it is not adequate for the current situation of the country. This is also fascinating. How many minutes do I have? 5? Okay, at most. In 2017, the Economics Department 1 decided to recruit exclusively by networks. And the decision at that stage was that this academic department felt that was a safer way of hiring. They had the experience that when they invited new academics and they did it openly, those academics used the platform of the department to look for better opportunities in another employer. So they said, no, we recruit by network. And it's very important, the networks. In 2022, that is not the discourse. They are going to the American economic job market, and this market basically is very similar to a market. All the applicants are applying at the same time, and all of the recruiters are competing for those applicants. None of those departments in 2017 were interested and were concerned about the composition of the faculty committee. If they happened that there were some women, was because those women were having a high position in the department. When I say high position, I'm referring to a position like the dean or the vice dean of the academic unit. I say in 2022 in Economic 2 in the Department of Economía 2 because I am not totally sure, when you get to the interviews are showing you different results. So I'm not completely sure about the Economic 2. What is happening in terms of the representation of that hiring committee? I want to call your attention in terms of how the discourse changed. This is the same person in 2017, in 2022. I am reflecting on the Economía 1, the academic department that exclusively recruited by network. Look at the last part. I say the contacts and networks are really important, whom you know and who comes to knock on the door. And I did that. I came to knock on the door and I say, hey, you know what? I want to work here. How do I do it? And before he was telling me, this university doesn't participate in the economic job market. We recruit through network. 2022, same individual. I said to this individual, you recently went to the US job market. That didn't happen in 2017. What changed? One change was the clarity concerning the need to create scientific productivity. We needed to reduce the degree of risk taken to hire an academic. And in the last extract of that quote, it says, many of the hiring decisions depending on information collected by a few number of people, more risk, less sample information than the information given by the candidate. Here, all teachers must teach different classes. This academic department changed the strategy because wanted to guarantee candidates that were not only belonging to their networks, but also can demonstrate their research potential, and that they were not having that using the strategy of network. I'm gonna close with these comments. So I'm wondering, what is the strategy that these academic departments in elite position are using to maintain their privilege, right? These differentiation attributes. And several things to say. If in some cases you hear the attribute of academic merit, academic merit in these academic departments is resumed in terms of the research potential, right? We are looking for research potential. This is the most important attribute. There is no explicit discrimination, and I have to be very clear with it, in terms of a specific attribute associated with social class. And I can talk more about the ways that I try to identify that was the case. But still, the key criteria to recruit these individuals are the level of prestige of PhD granted university. And that is something that the literature demonstrates. Only with in exceptional cases, they accept to hire someone that would have graduated in Latin American university or in Chilean university. And networks still continue operating, in terms of who I am passing and encouraging to apply, and the level of certainty that I have that these individuals will accept my job offer. I know that I have gone through the time, so I'm going to stop here, and I hope continue the conversation afterwards. Sorry.
Hello. I'm not sure. Okay, I think that here is better. Can you, Mariana, are you there? Thank you very much. This presentation, I will present with my colleague. Great, thank you. Mariana Mendonça, that is on the web. Mariana, can you hear me? Great. Yes, great. Okay, thank you so much. Very interesting presentations before. And this presentation is about Argentina early careers academics or early career researchers. That is a question because the call for this panel talk about early career researchers, and I will show you why this is a global concept that maybe does not fit in our countries and developing countries. So the presentation is about the academic profession in Argentina, trends and activities, working conditions, and early career academics. First, the literature that talks about early career academics talks about that over the years, more and more trained and skilled young people started to enter the academic career with an increase of tasks in order to be promoted despite they are in the training process, they are informative years. And as a consequence, it's okay, the pressure and stress are similar or higher than the older colleagues, and there are worse conditions for youngers, such as low guarantees for this young generation in terms of employment opportunities, as well as lower wages. So this is what the literature of the developed countries talk about early career academics. What happens in Argentina? The educational requirements and competencies to access academia are not the same. Young scholars cannot be placed under the first word concept of early career researchers because most of them have part-time positions. And a large part is only dedicated to teaching, but there are another group that even when they have part-time positions, they do research. Even though the possibilities and difficulties to advance in the academic career may be similar, with the consequent impact on the perception of pressure and stress. So this topic has not been enough studied in Argentina, so this presentation aims to be a starting point for the study of the early career Argentinian academics. Our purpose in this presentation is to analyze the profiles and working conditions of the early career academics in Argentina and the consequences on their subjectivity, their feelings, in the context of the fragmentation that the academic profession in Argentina went through in the last decades. The main questions are: who are the early career academics in Argentina? What are the activities developed by them? Do the activities vary according to the type of employment and contract time? And do early career academics experience their job environment in which way, how they feel about that? So I will let Mariana to very fast offer you a very fast history of how we get in this situation through the history of the academy in Argentina of the last decades. Mariana. Mariana? Yes, can you hear me? Yes? Okay, it's your turn. Okay, thank you. And it's important to show that in Argentina, we don't have the tenure idea such as in the United States or in Europe, but we have an open selection process through competitive examination and interviews called Concurso de Antecedentes y Oposición. But this is not for all the life. So if you want to go to promote to another rank, you have to do it again, the selection process. And the other specific characteristic is that we have in main big universities a hierarchical chair system that is very rigid for the renewal of of the faculty. So, which are the requirements to enter a position, a faculty position? Obtaining a doctoral degree was not historically a requirement for access to the academic career. And even when the reforms of the 90s established that having a PhD would gradually be introduced as a prerequisite with several policies aimed at that purpose. Currently, only 13% of university teachers have a doctoral degree, with 10% holding, in addition, master's degree or similar. So the socialization phase in Argentina has been more related to the accumulation of teaching experience and scientific production than to the acquisition of higher academic degrees. So for young scholars, it's a challenge because regular positions are occupied by renewal in mostly a consequence is mostly a consequence of retirement of older academics. So it's just in that case they can access. So it's very difficult to access to a regular position at the university. And today, young academics with strong interests in research take advantage of the situation that the PhD is not a requirement by having a PhD immediately so they can compete through the CONICET path. And in that situation, they can easily get a part-time position as a complement and became a kind of full-time teacher at the university, but they are employed by CONICET in one side and the university just for teaching on the other hand. But this path is so competitive that most young academics barely can access to CONICET, so they can obtain as the best option a part-time position, and with that position, if they want, they do research for free or just they do teaching and have a complementary job outside the academia. So with that context, that is a lot, I'm sorry for the fast way that we have shown. Our last paper in Aveiro told that our academic profession is very fragmented. So we identify 4 groups in our whole population that were really very statistically associated. That's why this is a very starting point for this paper. So we identify 4 groups. The first one is the traditional academic that had entered to a university position by a regular position, and they are full-time. The second is the CONICET track. The third is the people that have a part-time position, but they do research at least 5 or more hours a week. And the fourth group is the people that only have a part-time position and they do not do research, just teaching and and have another job outside the academia. And in that paper, we used several dependent variables. One of them was generation that was extremely statistically associated. That's why in this paper, we take the young generation, that is the novice generation, and we will focus on this to show the results in this paper. So our hypothesis here in this paper is that the youngest generation in Argentina, considering the 2 tracks, the 2 groups, is the one that received the greatest impact of the segmentation. And this can be observed in their profiles, in their academic practices and in their perceptions about their job. So we took several dependent variables for the first part, that is a descriptive analysis that aims at identify who are our young academics. We take type of contract, rank, gender, training, discipline, contract time, and group 1, 4, 3, or 4. And the second part of the study uh, is we take as dependent variables the academic practices and the perceptions about job satisfaction and stress mainly, and the preferences. And the question is, what do young academics do and what do they feel? So I'll give the room to Mariana to talk about our main results of these parts of the study.
Yes, I'll go really quickly because of the time. But the first thing that we wanted to know actually was who are the knowledge generation that we're looking at. And we found that almost half of our samples belong to the knowledge generation. And if we consider the post core groups, we found that the knowledge generation is part of, is mainly as part of groups 3 and 4. That is
Thank you, Mariana. I will go with the conclusions because someone is saying that I have only more minutes. Um, so we can say that young academics in Argentina show at the first glance important differences with peers from the developed countries, which are called early career researchers. They are mostly part-timers with not tenure positions and with only half having doctorate degree, although proportionally are more trained than their older colleagues. However, these differential characteristics do not distance them from the global trends of the early career researchers. They feel more demanded, they are relatively more interested in research than the average, both in terms of the time devoted to it and of preference, even when in many cases, they are not paid for it. And finally, they are more stressed than the average, although they are almost equally satisfied as the rest. So the requirements, characteristics are different from the developed countries, but the situation is very similar. Um, for discussion, we can say that the fragmentation in the academic generation is not exactly the same if compared with the older generation. The first path, the more traditional, is barely an option for the young academics because of the rigidity of the church system. The second path, focus on research, is a possibility, but it's very difficult for the vast majority of the young academics. The third part is where the great majority of part-timers young academics are, and some of them do not give up and do research in that path. And the fourth is just for teaching and have a different job outside academia. So to finish, we can say that one interpretation of our findings for further discussion is that while our countries, the developing countries, have differential and more disadvantaged conditions, which are worse for young academics, the global academic world imposes demands and pressures to advance academic careers in the same way for everyone, no matter where they live in the country, in the world. So the possibilities of fulfilling them are unequal and not only depend on the moment of the academic career, but also the place in the world where said career takes place. Therefore, the main loser in this race is the early career academics from developing countries such Argentina. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Monica. Thank you very much, Mariana. It has been a great session. We have 3 minutes for quick question, comment. I have several questions, but I can ask them. Okay. Anyone in the room for a quick comment or quick question? Professor there.
Thank you for interesting presentation for 4 countries. At first, I'm asked to the Portuguese presentation involvement to the society, engagement to society. You explain by the gender, but sometimes related to the specialized field. It's mean engineering contributed to the society, especially. So please introducing the framework to the specialized field, which is a different, important factor to the engagement. Yeah, my question or no comment. Yeah, and lastly, Monica's presentations are very interesting. Maybe this is a developing country situation, I think. In this morning, Japan's specialized top-rank research institution say young researcher salary more than 20% up. It means maybe now the competing for the searching for the young faculty, young researcher, maybe struggling to finding the specialized knowledge researcher. So maybe this is a developed country situation or not, I don't know. But nowadays, STEM field is specialized in young researcher. It's okay. Same situation in Argentina or Argentina in the special another situation. Oh, I don't know, but I want to ask to you, Monica-san. Yeah, thank you.
So, yes, sadly, it's not the same situation, and that explains why we are developing countries and you are a developed country. Uh, First, because there are no higher or more possibilities and opportunities for young academics, but in the STEM fields, the same happen. And we know that the knowledge society is the way for the development. But this is not usual in countries like Argentina because the industry maybe is not so developed and uh, the politicians and the government is not seeing as a way for to develop to increase the investment in the STEM sciences. So I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry, but we ran out of time. We need to go to the next activities, but please let me join another applause for Kayala, Roxana, Teresa, Ana, Monica. Let's continue the conversation over the day. Yeah. Thank you, Kayala. Thank you, Mariana. Thanks.